Hi there, Nate Urandi, Orion Training Systems. Today is, for a couple of reasons, a historic day in cycling. Um, it's the last day of the Vuelta a Espana, the third Grand Tour of the season after the Giro and the Tour, as many of you already know. And the reason it's a historic day is we have, on one hand, Alberto Contador, longtime cyclist, Grand Tour rider, who is closing the curtain on his illustrious, if not controversial, career after today, unless for some reason he decides to race the World Championships, which right now there is not an indication that he will do that. And on the other hand, we have Chris Froome, who is doing something that no other rider in the history of cycling has done, and that is win the Tour Vuelta double. So he won the Tour de France for the fourth time in July, and now has followed that up, it appears, unless something disastrous happens today, with winning the Vuelta. So the first cyclist to win the Tour Vuelta double in the history of cycling. So what does all this mean for cycling? It's kind of interesting, you know. As I thought about it yesterday, I tweeted that a part of cycling died inside today, and being yesterday after the Angliru stage, which Contador won, and which, you know, Froome solidified his ability to win the Vuelta. What's interesting is we have a case of someone retiring from cycling who had the talent from very early in his own career, was beset by tragedy when he nearly died from some cerebral trauma that he had, and then came back, had his own doping issues, raced for doping teams, yet is looked at, and I'm speaking about Contador here, is looked at as one of the patrons of cycling, one of the, you know, good guys, despite his doping past, his controversial past. And you have Froome, who will never ever be looked at as a patron, will never have the popularity of someone like a Contador, and yet, you know, has never been caught doping, and is looked at as, you know, one of the new generation, the clean winners, and so forth. So it's the juxtaposition between the two, especially on this historic day, those two things coming together, is really interesting. And so, you know, I'm not here to talk about Contador in and of himself being someone I admire or not, or Froome someone I admire or not. It's really not about that. It's how interesting those two different riders with their two different histories, you know, and intersect today in a way that is going to forever change, I'm going to say, as dramatic as that sounds, forever change the path forward of cycling. And when you think about Froome, you know, he's won the Tour 4 times, arguably could have won it 6 times by now had he not been forced to play the domestique to Wiggins when he was clearly stronger. And then, you know, since then, one of the years he was teed up to win the Tour, he crashed out of it, just had terrible luck, you know, crashing multiple times, breaking his wrist. You know, we'll never know, but odds are he probably would, or at least could have won that race as well without the bad luck. And that's terrible luck that you don't wish on anybody, quite frankly. Crashing on cobbles, breaking bones, that's not good for anybody. So let's just say that he would have won at least one of those 2 tours as opposed to both. You know, arguably a 5-time or even a 6-time winner of the Tour by now. And then you add to that something that's never been done before, the Tour of Vuelta double. And to me, that's clearly Lance 3.0. And why 3.0? You have Lance in his own 7 Tour victories as Lance 1.0. You have Lance's comeback, where he, in the same year, podiumed in the Giro and then podiumed in the Tour. That to me is Lance 2.0. And now this, which is so eerily similar to Lance 1.0, it's got to be lumped in there as the third coming of Lance, quite frankly. And yet, the vociferous defending of Lance through all that, and then his downfall, and the vociferous defending of Froome now, what would it mean to cycling if all of this turned out to be the massive sham that it appears to be? Because you look at any of the multi-time Grand Tour winners in the past, like the 5-time winners, they're all shady. They've all been either shown to be doping, admitted to be doping, got popped, you name it. So why is this different? Why is this story different when the vast majority of the peloton is still using PEDs? So imagine what it would do to cycling if this was proven to be nothing but a sham. Imagine the motivation that the UCI has to make sure that this does not come out. But I'll challenge, imagine that now is the time that every single rock has to be turned over, has to be scrutinized. Investigative journalism right now would be so monumentally critical to do one of two things. Either prove that Chris Froome is the sham that I will say the majority of people think he is, and therefore Team Sky is, David Brailsford is, Bradley Wiggins was, and so forth, or prove that he is the once in a generation, the once in a lifetime, quite frankly, talent that another camp is saying that he is. Like, this is the time to prove that one way or the other. I honestly don't care. I have my own beliefs, but I honestly don't care what the true answer is. I would just love it to be based on 100% facts than innuendo in either camp, quite frankly. So there's that. And then we've got Contador on the other side, who drugs and cheating aside, I respect the hell out of as a rider, because he rode with such panache and emotion and threw tactics to the wind to try and win. And so I have a lot of respect for that. Cycling needs more of that, quite frankly, as opposed to this automaton, robotic type of, U.S. Postal reincarnate that we're experiencing today, in the Grand Tours at least. So I'll miss Contador for that aspect of cycling, the excitement that he injected into any race that he was in. But on the flip side of that, I'm happy to see him go, because at some point there's got to be some sort of grandfather clause type of thing with cycling. It's kind of like when there were no helmets and then they grandfathered it in, and and basically it was, you don't have to wear helmets, except then it was, you do have to wear helmets except on stages that ended on an uphill finish with no descent. And then finally it was, you have to wear helmets. It's kind of like pro hockey, the NHL, where it was any pro entering the sport from this day forward must wear a helmet. For all current pros, it's your choice. Now everybody's wearing a helmet. So to me, hopefully we can reduce, I'm not going to say eliminate, because that the only percentage from 0 to 100 that in terms of clean to doping that we know is unequivocally untrue is 0%, meaning everything is clean. So what I'm hoping is that as we all age, as those who were part of the problem and were part of the, the this in terms of the monkeys, hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil generations of cycling while we're still there. Hopefully that as the people from the really challenging decades in that regard are, bled out of the sport, whether it's from a rider perspective or a management perspective or a team ownership perspective. Hopefully as those people phase out, what phases in is at least cleaner and less corrupt. Maybe that's a pipe dream, but hopefully it's going in that direction. So while I love the way Contador raced and the excitement he brought to the sport, I'm also happy to see him go, because maybe, what backfills him is more something that is clean and believable as opposed to just more of the same. But we'll see. Time will tell. So there's that. Hopefully that sparks some own thoughts and ideas and comments in your own head. Certainly share them, below or wherever you might find this posted, on the website, on my Twitter page. But in any case, as always, happy training.